Thanks, Steve. Hello, good morning, everyone. Gabe Diaz, Senior Solutions Architect here for Xona Systems. So I've taken our diagram that I use for demonstration purposes pretty much regularly. So I've obviously the enterprise information technology is that layer 5, layer 4, and then you have that regional control system in that layer 4.5, which is essentially your OT DMZ. And then you have your layer 3.5, which could be your primary control station. And then your substations could be a mixture of layer 3 and layer 2 if we're looking at a Purdue model here. But as you can see, we've placed CSGs in 3 different spots of your network. And there's no right or wrong here. It's really how safe do you want your environment to look after you've placed our devices in there. And the biggest thing that I want you to look at is capping off these vulnerable protocols. I'm going to zoom in here so everybody can see a little bit better. But the purpose of our technology is to choke down these vulnerable protocols, RDP, VNC, SSH, and web, right? Obviously, we can work with any other TCP or UDP protocol. So your Modbus, your SCADA devices, all of those protocols can be choked down with our technology. But these are the ones that you're going to get that protocol isolation, the video recording, the monitoring, and then the moderation of user traffic. And that is a really big differentiator from us and our competitors is we focus on user to machine interaction, right? We want to let the firewalls do their job by managing that machine to machine traffic, but we are going to intercept all the user to machine traffic and then provide a platform for those users to be able to safely connect to these devices, and then again, provide you visibility and control over those devices. So like I mentioned, there's not a right spot to place our boxes, our platform. It really depends on the environment, and everybody's environment that's potentially in this webinar is going to be completely different. So you might see our CSGs in layer 3.5 or even layer 4 or layer 4.5. Really depends up to you guys where you want to place our boxes. And that kind of goes back to our flexibility, our ease of deployment. All our devices requires 2 IP addresses, right? One firewall rule for inbound traffic. If you have our centralizer, you could set our centralizer up in either the OT DMZ, IT DMZ, and we also have private cloud deployment options. It's safe to say all of our offerings come in either a virtual or physical platform. And then again, as well as cloud offerings. So we really do have some flexibility available for every environment that we're going to be deployed into. And if you want to segment, if you want to completely isolate a specific substation or control station, we can do that with our CSGs, right? And that is the benefit of our technology. When we place our box at the perimeter, we only present the user with images of the asset that they're connecting to. So that is where that protocol isolation comes in. So again, we don't allow the user to interact with that RDP protocol directly. We provide them screen scrapes of that RDP profile or asset, and then their mouse clicks and keyboard strokes are translated, within seconds back into that native protocol. So from a user perspective, they don't see the difference between a traditional RDP and our technology. And I'll dive into a presentation here. So now I'm going to walk you guys through a scenario here. And this is essentially, I'm going to log in as an administrator of our Xona platform, but also I'm also going to provide you a view of a potentially provisioned user account here on the Xona platform. So this provisioned user account is going to kind of mimic a third-party vendor or potentially IT employee that's coming in from a different network segment. Okay, so I'm going to pull up my Windows side to side here. I'm going to leverage a single sign-on identity here through our Entra ID. So obviously Xona uses Entra ID, as you guys can see with this login. But a user is just going to open up their browser, any type of browser. It can be Firefox, Chrome. I personally love Chrome as it has most of the components built into it that I use on a daily basis. But this identity can be anything that is SAML2 Dotto integrated. So ping identity, Entra ID, Okta, anything that uses SAML 2.0, we can integrate with. We can also leverage LDAP or LDAP-S identities. And then as well, we can create identities local to the centralizer or the CSG platform, right? So that is on the right-hand side, I'm going to leverage a local account. We're going to enforce two-factor authentication on the particular local account. And then from the SAML integration, we'll inherit whatever two-factor authentication mechanism is being provided by your identity provider. In this instance, since I log into my platform on a daily basis, my Microsoft Authenticator already has been cached into my browser, so I don't have to pull out my phone and validate my identity. But you guys get the idea that we would enforce two-factor components on the perimeter of either our centralizer or our CSG platform. Now, once I'm logged in here, I can go back to my dashboard. It's designed for a user to just log in, get to work, and get it done, right? That is our motto. That is what we designed the platform for, is to just ease of use for a user, right? And these are all of the assets that I have built into this platform, this CSG. From a user perspective, I'm going to log in. And I do have a hard token requirement for this particular user. I don't know if you guys ever seen these Yubico YubiKeys. We can also use TOTP devices. Here's my Windows authentication requiring me to select that security key, and then I just have to place my thumbprint on that device, and then it validates my identity, and I logged into the CSG as well. And as you can see right off the gate, I do have different menu options from the user as well as the administrator view, right? If I go to the connections, we segment the user's visibility based on their role or privilege, right? And this particular user only has access to 4 assets that I have. I have 20 assets on this particular system. I have access to this exact same engineering workstation A, which is this particular workstation. As you can see, I can quickly connect to it. This user has to request access to this particular asset. This does not have to be the same scenario for every user, right? You can pick and choose what users have the ability to connect to an asset without moderation, or you can lock down permissions per specific user, excuse me. So this user would request access. This gives us the ability to validate the identity and then also the safety and reliability of the asset that they're connecting to. It really plays into your specific policy that you want to employ in your environment, right? As we can see from the details of this particular asset, all I needed to create this asset was give it a name, which can be unique to the asset. I've baked in the credentials here. Currently, it is set up for manual login, or I think I changed that. So these credentials are baked into it. This is how we can leverage shared accounts, which I know a lot of people are going to say we don't use shared accounts in our environments. We see that very often, and you're not alone. We obviously want to get away from using shared credentials, but our solution gives you the ability to register actions for a named user account based on shared credentials. And I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about here. So again, I have a shared credential here. This user is going to log in obviously with their test user account, but every action that they do once I approve their access to this particular asset is going to be recorded. And then I'm also going to be able to monitor it, which I'm going to show you guys. Lastly, to create this connection is going to be an IP address or host name. All these other parameters here for this particular RDP session are going to be if we want to leverage any existing like remote desktop services. So if we wanted to lock down a user to a specific application, let's say we wanted to do a calculator per se, we can do so. Not to say that that's a specific use case that might be needed in the real world, but you guys get the gist of it. We can lock down a specific user to either an application or directory, so you don't have to give them start menu, command line access or PowerShell access to a specific asset. It obviously does not also have to be an administrator account. It could be just a named user account inside this environment. So that is the only thing that is needed to create a connection. It is very similar for SSH connections or VNC or web connections. Web connections, the only difference is that you're going to be pointing to a specific URL. So as you guys can see through the dashboard, from this user requesting access, I see it notified here on my dashboard. I can either approve or deny, again, going back to that workflow to validate this user's identity or validate the safety and reliability of the asset that they're connecting to. I can tie this notification into SMTP, so I can get a notification via email. So essentially, I can approve this or deny this on the fly. Our platform is also mobile friendly. So if you have engineers or technicians that are walking around the remote site, not in front of their laptop, and they need to approve a device, they can obviously do it through a mobile device if they needed to. We can also tie this into our Log40 integrations to like a Splunk or Elasticsearch instance, so you can create dashboards and create alerting that way. So there's multiple ways to get that notification and then approve or deny that user's request. Once that user has been approved, obviously they will get notified, and then this user can connect to this particular asset. Here is the connection in question. I'm going to go back to the connection assets here on the administrator side, and then I'm going to see that this option has changed. We can see that it is in use. I can either terminate that user session or monitor it. I'm going to monitor it since I want to be a nice guy to myself. We can also disable this notification here, so we don't have to alert this user that we are peering over their shoulder, right? But again, as I mentioned before, from a user perspective, we give them the ability to connect to a specific asset, like they had hands on keyboard. And I'm trying to move as fast as I possibly can through this HMI here. And as you guys can see, hopefully from your perspective, there's no latency or anything from my Zoom session. But from my perspective, there's no latency. The mouse is not trailing across the screen. If I open up a notepad here and just start typing as fast as I possibly can, it's going to register every keyboard stroke that I place on this particular notepad. So again, from a user perspective, we are not impeding on that traffic. We're actually lighter on network traffic because we're only presenting the user with static images, encrypted static images versus an encrypted RDP packet. And if anybody in the audience is privy to like VDI technology, like, if we look at VMware Blast protocol, it's a megabit of data that is being pushed in and out of the environment. When you're talking about multiple concurrent sessions, if you have a very small data path, you're going to start seeing latency. And that is why our partners or our clients have used our technology in their ships when they're across the sea where they had satellite connections. They only had limited bandwidth. With our technology, they were able to still securely access critical infrastructure at sea without, having deterioration of user experience. When we've seen that type of experience out in the field, we tend to see users bypass the technology. They circumvent the security of the environment because they just can't get their work done. And we provide them a safe and reliable solution for being able to get in and get their work done. All right. As you guys can see from an administrative standpoint, I'm going to try to click on this box here. Does nothing. If I come over here, you guys can see that my mouse is moving on the left-hand side. If I see anything nefarious from this particular user's interaction, I can punt this user directly off this particular asset. I can also completely disable their access indefinitely to a platform. So not only can I terminate the session, but I can disable their access. Okay. Now I'm not gonna go ahead and disable the user account here, but I also did want to show you guys, as I mentioned before, you can go through the view of that shared credential. So there's that engineering workstation. And let's just say I'm going to search for that engineering workstation. That engineering workstation pops up multiple times. And again, as I mentioned, this connection has been built with a shared account. And as I can see that Adam, Islam, other users have been leveraging this particular asset. And I can see exactly what they did. Now I already have a rendered recording in here somewhere. Here it is. And I can go and see exactly what that user did. Now, when you render a recording, obviously we're saving only in the screen scrapes of the user's interactions, so a very, very small file. When we render it, we convert it into an MP4 formatted video, right? So you can download it, interact with it. So here's the video itself. I'm going to play it. It's 2 minutes and 14 seconds. Obviously, I can see exactly what that user did. I can fast forward if I wanted to. Again, save it for forensic purposes, training purposes, you name it. But at least I have a named action to a user, to a shared credential, right? Which is huge, especially in these water and wastewater environments where you potentially are leveraging shared credentials. Now, this is not our only use case. We have other multiple use cases that we can satisfy. We can still move assets or files, excuse me, artifacts into these environments securely in that moderated fashion. So if you needed to move like an update file to a certain PLC, or you needed to pull documentation or reports from a Modbus controller or any HMI from your environments, you're able to safely do that through our platform. And we give you, again, the full controls of being able to do that. So that really concludes the demonstration portion of my presentation here. We have 15 minutes left. I wanted to save the last 15 minutes for any comments or questions, or if anybody is looking for anything specifically that they would like me to demonstrate on our platform, I'd be more than happy to do so. And thank you very much again for joining us. I know that taking an hour out of your day speaks volume to having you here with us today.